The Houston Texans have to be the most confusing franchise in the NFL right now. Last year, they went 4-13. And I kind of feel like they slightly overachieved because there were a good amount of people out there going into the 2021 NFL season who felt like the Houston Texans could go 0-17. And then there were a good amount of people who felt like the Texans wouldn't win no more than 2 games at best. However, they went 4-13. They had a huge upset victory against the LA Chargers late in the year. And despite the fact that, you could say they slightly overachieved under David Culley, they decided to get rid of him. And this is where things start to get incredibly confusing. They replaced David Culley with Lovie Smith. Now, I love Lovie Smith. The guy has the best beard in the NFL. I don't think anybody's going to be debating that. That's a W for the Houston Texans. Just give the Houston Texans a W just for the fact that Lovie Smith has the best beard in the NFL. I'm not going back and forth with anybody in the comment section about it. I mean, this guy's beard is fantastic. I hope when I get old and I get into my late 60s that I am able to grow a beard this awesome. However, Lovie Smith, outside of what he's done with the Chicago Bears, he hasn't done anything ever since. He didn't win anything in Tampa. He didn't win anything when he was at Illinois. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Now, Houston's defense wasn't as bad as what the numbers may indicate because their offense didn't do them any favors. And I say it so many times, but I'm going to ramble about it again. If your offense isn't efficient and they can't sustain drives and your defense is on the field for a lot of plays, your defense is going to underperform in certain situations because they're going to be on the field for more plays than what they need to be. So for Lovie Smith, with him taking over the reins as head coach, you do have somebody who is experienced. He is really good when it comes to the defense side of football. The defense has improved. However, the big addition to Houston is offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton. And for those of you guys who don't know who Pep Hamilton is, this was somebody who was largely responsible for why Justin Herbert had pretty much the greatest rookie season that we have ever seen from a rookie quarterback. He was the LA Chargers quarterbacks coach during 2020. And I think with him being the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, he is going to do wonders with Davis Mills because Davis Mills is a smart quarterback. He comes from Stanford. Pep Hamilton is a smart guy, one of the smartest offensive coordinators in the NFL. You talk to anybody about Pep Hamilton, they're going to tell you that this guy's IQ is off the charts. So I think that it's only, fair to expect that, these two guys are going to hit it off, Pep Hamilton and Davis Mills. Both very smart guys. I think that the best case scenario for Houston is going to be 6-11. And mainly it's because of Pep Hamilton. Just being honest with you, I think that Pep Hamilton is going to have this offense playing at above average level. And it's not as if Houston doesn't have anything to work with on offense. They do have some pretty good pieces. You do have Laremy Tunsil there at left tackle. Okay, you do have rookie offensive guard Kenyon Green, who was one of the best interior offensive lineman prospects coming out of this past year's draft. You do have Brandon Cooks, pretty much the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. This guy is a fantasy god. And then you have Nico Collins, who showed some flashes last year. I am a big believer in Brevin Jordan from the U. And then at running back, you have Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead. But you guys already know who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the human wrecking ball, Dameon Pierce. We already did a segment about Dameon Pierce earlier in the offseason. It is one of our best performing segments on the JT Sports podcast over the last couple of months. Dameon Pierce is a freak. I am so excited to see what he does for the Houston Texans this season. Now, he probably won't be RB1 right off the bat, but I think as we progress throughout this year and we get into week 12, week 13 of the regular season, we're going to start seeing Dameon Pierce get a bigger workload in this offense because, how can you not put this guy on the field, Houston? Dameon Pierce should at least get 100 carries this year. If you give Dameon Pierce 100 carries this year, Pep Hamilton, I'll be satisfied. But I really think that this offense is going to surprise his people. And don't forget, Davis Mills was the second best rookie quarterback last year. Imagine me telling you, before the 2021 season started, if I was a time traveler and we travel back to 2021 and you see me and I tell you that Davis Mills is going to be the second best rookie quarterback behind Mac Jones, better than Trevor Lawrence, better than Zach Wilson, better than Justin Fields, better than Trey Lance, you probably will look at me and say, JT Sports, are you drunk? But Davis Mills was actually pretty good. And I'm really excited for what Davis Mills can do this year. But my worst case scenario for the Houston Texans is 2-15. And listen, the Houston Texans have some pretty promising young players on their defense. I think they had a really good draft. I love Jalen Petrie. I'm a big fan of Derek Stingley. Okay. But I really don't know if Lovie Smith is really going to be the coach who really turns things around in Houston, because he hasn't really had no success anywhere he's been post Chicago. So I really question, just what adjustments is he going to make? You feel me? Like, what's going to be different between this year's team and last year's team? Yes, you do have an experienced head coach, a coach who has won at a high level in the past, but Lovie Smith hasn't won at a high level in pretty much a decade. You feel me? So I'm just not really a big fan of the Lovie Smith hiring. I do love him as a defensive coordinator. I love his beard. But I mean, I don't know, man. I really can't get behind it. And let's say the offensive line still isn't really all that great. On the defense, you do have a good amount of young pieces, but you also still are lacking talent in major spots. I do like Jonathan Grenard. I think he could end up being a Pro Bowl caliber pass rusher in this league. But I don't know, man. I really do love the young pieces that the Houston Texans have. I love Jonathan Grenard. I love Christian Harris. I love Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Christian Kirksey. Even though he's up there in age, when he's able to stay healthy, he plays at a really good level. The dude is insane. It's just that, there hasn't really been too many years when he's been able to stay healthy for all 16, 17 games. But if he can stay healthy, he's also somebody who can produce at a pretty high level for you. But their interior of their defensive line really isn't all that great. Garrett Wallow and Steven Nelson, he's solid, but I don't know, man. I just look at Houston, and I think that the worst case for this team really is 2 wins. And my record prediction really isn't going to be all that better. It's 4-13. And listen, I understand that Houston Texans fans probably aren't expecting anything special. You're probably hoping that you can get the 6 wins, but I don't really have a lot of confidence in Lovie Smith. I mean, he is an upgrade from David Culley from the experience standpoint, but I mean, he hasn't really won at an insanely high level. But I mean, when you look at the Houston Texans schedule earlier on, it's not really that tough, believe it or not. I mean, you do got Indianapolis, you got Denver really early into the season, you go on the road and face Chicago, back-to-back road trips, you got the Chargers, then you got Jacksonville. So I mean, I think that they potentially could go 2-2 for their first games of the season. Then after that, after your bye week, this is where things start to get really tough, okay? You get to play the Raiders on the road. You got to play Tennessee, Philadelphia. Then things get a little bit easy for the next 2 weeks, okay? You're playing the New York Giants and Washington. Those are both 2 winnable games. Then you got to go on the road and play the Miami Dolphins. Then to close out the season, you got to play Dallas, Kansas City, Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis. So 4-13 is going to be my record prediction for the Houston Texans. I do think that this offense is going to be pretty good, but I don't really know about the defense. It's still fairly young. You do have some young players who are going to pop for you, but overall, I just don't really see the Houston Texans being all that much better compared to where they were last year. But that's it for my 2022 AFC South record predictions. Leave your record predictions down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, remember that every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. And I will see you guys with another episode shortly.